once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, the Quinn. At least it's how I'm known here on the program and really nowhere else. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All I Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014. And it will be until the very end of days. And look what I have back on set. We are sponsored in my dreams and one day in real life by Liquid Death. Murder your thirst. It's been a while since I've had a good old LD on set. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Liquid Death too much unless, you know, I want them to sponsor us. Then we'll talk about them a little more. But we're here to talk about David Tucker, who just released an EP, Nashville-based musician. And we've got a lot to share today. First of all, Sarah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing me on. Let me be here.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out, spending your Sunday. It is cold outside right now. It's December as we're recording this. And yeah, I'm going to hate life for the next 3 months, but it's fine.
It's cold. You know, I just come down. I was traveling back to Nashville this weekend and I was up north, and I'm telling you, I was like, I got here and opened the door and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is so warm here. Mm-hmm. And it's still like 40 degrees. Yeah. But it was a lot colder up there. Yeah. So I was glad to get back. Isn't it weird how that changes, you know, like it's cold sometimes and you get even colder, you're like, woo, it was better before.
Yeah, it's that perspective, you know, like you go somewhere really cold, you come back here, it's like 40-ish, 45. It's really not that bad.
I like the summertime.
Me too.
Summertime was my time.
Yeah, I'm a summer guy through and through. But anyway, enough about the weather. Let's talk about you, and let's begin by, of course, asking you the 3 standard questions we ask everybody here at the Quinn Spinn. Those 3 questions are, who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on this show of all the shows?
My name is David Tucker. I'm a country pop artist here in Nashville. I've been here for the last 7 or 8 years, grinding it out, putting my music out, and you know, making my career here. But it's been such a good time you know, during that journey. And I will say, I will never turn down a good chat. So I've got to be here on the show. Anytime I get into a good, deep conversation, it's a blast. But also, man, what you do in the creative leadership that you give artists, and I think it's a cool thing, man, that of what you do for artists and upcoming artists and people to have their own creative outlet. I think it's a cool thing. So always glad to be here, and I appreciate you bringing me on.
I appreciate that. Thanks very much. And if you want some of that creative leadership, sign up for Brand Camp from the UMC Academy beginning January 6th. Anyway, enough of that. So appreciate you being here, and yes, certainly a lot to talk about. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, as far back as you want to go.
Yeah. So actually, I was born in Athens, Georgia. And shortly after, when I was about 4 years old, my family packed up and we moved to Northern Kentucky, right near Cincinnati. And so I was actually raised in Northern Kentucky from 5 till about 18, 19. So it was a total switch up, really, from being kind of more in Atlanta, Athens area to more out in the country, the rural area of Kentucky. So it was a cool experience. You know, I actually loved growing up in the country, but my mom was a worship team leader at church. My dad pastored a church. And so he planted a church in Northern Kentucky. And when we were growing up, me and my sister, brother, you know, music was a big thing in our family. So my mom leading the worship team at church, you know, it was we just kind of started filling the gaps in those roles and, you know, inserting ourselves, and our mom really pushed us to be able to get involved musically, you know, with different instruments and stuff. So from that point on, you know, I started to pick up music, started playing drums, you know, guitars, you know, started picking up different things. But what really got me into music, you know, from the get-go was, you know, not only just playing music, but also, you know, writing music. I feel like that, you know, it's such a big difference from just playing, and then, you know, you start to write things and you start to, you know, have all these emotions in your head and the visions in your head, they start to come out, you know, on paper. And it's a really cool experience, you know, when you're first starting to do that. And so, but really what was more the trigger for me is my brother passed away when I was 12. He was 10. He was 2 years younger than me. I was 7th grade. And I remember that, like, that was kind of the switch that clicked in me, that turned on my emotions and was able to give me like an outlet. You know, I never felt like I had an outlet before until that. And then songs started kind of like just flooding out of me. You know, all the emotions that I'd kind of carried just continued to start to come out. And that's what really got me into country music, you know, the storytelling, the rawness of, the vulnerability of being able to be open and honest and say what you're feeling and what you're going through,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, what really gave me the opportunity to dig into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, it kind of turned into one thing to the next, to the next, to another. And by the time I was in high school, I put my own band together and we started playing around town. We started doing shows in our local area and, all kind of around Northern Kentucky area and the tri-state. So it was a cool feeling, and getting to do that. But it was just like, where does it go from here?
Right.
You know?
So was there a moment then where you decided, I'm doing this, like I'm going to do this for a living, I'm going to pursue this to the highest degree?
Yeah. I would say, it wasn't my first, it wasn't like from the start what I planned on doing. When I graduated high school at 18, I had planned on originally going to weld. I was going to be a welder.
Right.
And that was just my plans at the time. I'd gone to vocational school before that and learned and got my certification as a welder and started to really feel like I was going to do that. But I was playing music at the same time. And at our graduation, when I graduated high school, there was not only my brother who had passed away recently before that, but another girl that was at our high school had passed away. So I actually sang at our graduation at our high school. It's kind of a funny story, but the little town I'm from is called Augusta, Kentucky. And Augusta, Kentucky is a little dot on the road right up on the Ohio River, but on the Kentucky side. Same little town George Clooney's from, the actor. And so his family's there, and it's kind of funny because, you wouldn't really know that or even think that going through. It's a beautiful little town on the riverfront, but they were at our graduation. The family there, I went to high school with his nephew. And so we were really good buddies. And so they actually helped me kind of see it as like an actual possibility.
Yeah.
Like an actual possibility to do this for real and to not just think it was, made up or dreams, but I could actually go chase it. Yeah. And so, they actually helped me kind of see that and link me with a few people that helped me start to really get it going full time. And then from there, I was just started really getting it going professionally and got some people involved to help kind of manage the stuff and put things together and the puzzle together of how it needed to kind of be and got me going. But so after that, I toured around our tri-state area, Kentucky, about everywhere you could. I wrote a song called Kentucky Bread, and I took it to every single radio station. I recorded it, and I drove to over 300 radio stations in Kentucky. Yeah. And I took it to every single station and asked them to play it. And it took a while, but after a while, they all started to play it. And so, I put it out on Facebook and stuff, and it was a long time ago, probably almost 10 years ago. But with that being said, that kind of gave me the push that I needed to come to Nashville. It was like, you kind of like, you grow as a fish in a small pond, you're big fish, and then you got to jump into the sea as a minnow in the ocean here. Yeah. So it's quite, diverse, but.
And so what did that contrast teach you? Because you come here, right, from whatever corner of the U.S. or the world that you come from. And I always liken it to, if you come here just bragging about all your local stuff, your local awards, local accomplishments, it's kind of like wearing your varsity jacket to the first day of college. Like, cool, that's nice, but like, it doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. Like, what are you doing now? And so like, how did the opportunity to take that leap from small town Kentucky, right outside of Cincinnati, to Nashville, like, what did that teach you, and how did that frame your perspective as far as what it takes to be a professional?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just first off, it was just kind of a huge smack in the face. Like, honestly, you build so much momentum where you're at, I feel like, in every small town or across the U.S. And then, you have all those people that are the best of the best at every area, and they all come here, and you're going against the best of the best of the best, like, it's no joke here, whether you're a musician or a singer or a songwriter or an artist, whatever you are. Or
in the industry.
Yeah, or the industry, and, you're working, behind the scenes to make artists be what we are. With that said, it is, it can be detrimental, what I'm saying? Like, you start to see, the quality and the skills of people, and you realize just quickly that you either got to really be ready to go or not. And I think that's really like the biggest thing for me was swallowing that down and being like, okay, like I've got to adjust. I've got to be able to, roll with the best and do everything I can and work hard as I can to build up my songwriting, my musicianship skills, my guitar playing and, everything that it took as a performer to entertain shows. It was a lot, but all those things, have to be done. And so it was just a constant grind, day to day, of living here in Nashville and playing, the circuit of Broadway and, industry events and writers rounds and touring, in between that. But it was definitely a huge switch and change up, but, all for the better.
Yeah. And I think too, a huge part of it is figuring out what makes you stand out, what makes you unique, what makes you special, because you have so many. We were talking about this offline right before we started. Like there are so many artists coming here and coming and going. Some come and go, like it's a tough town to really quote unquote make it in. And by make it, we mean like break through, and have that level of success that you dream about when you come here.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. What makes you stand out? What sets you apart?
Yeah. I think I struggled with that question for a long time. I feel like when I moved here, I had several people, industry people that would tell me, what's going to make you different? What's going to make you stand apart from everyone else? What are you bringing to the table that's going to be different? And I always questioned that. And I always wondered, like, you look up to people that you saw growing up, that your idols or your musical figures that you really love, you're looked up to. And sometimes you can tend to emulate them or tend to want to be like them, or you want to play kind of like they do or their style, whatever it is. But sometimes, you have to realize, and someone told me, it's like, there's already that person there. Like, that person already exists. You don't need to be another that. So it's like, what makes you creative? And I found out, this is something for me personally, maybe not everyone else, but it took me years for me to answer that question. Like it constantly was in the back of my head for years of living here. And I'd say it took probably 3 to 5 years for me to get that answered, because you constantly question, how am I going to be different? You write songs, you produce songs, you make music, you're writing with people, you're trying to expand your group of people that you work with and write with and create with. And so, what makes you stand out? And I think it's your personal story. I mean, my personal story for me, I never knew what stood out for me until I really started to go through a lot of struggles. And, I had a pretty good life growing up. And, other than my brother passing away, there was, we had a pretty good life, and, there wasn't a whole lot of struggle there. And wasn't a whole lot of things that I had been through, and I used to write songs of stories that I dreamed and stories that I'd make up and think. But when you're able to go through some things, and, I went through a whirlwind of traumatic tragedies. But with that to say is that through that, it gave me that answer to what makes me different, what makes me stand out, is because I know we'll probably get into this in a bit, but it's like everything that I've been through is become an outlet for me to make people feel vulnerable, for them to, let their outlet out, and for them to tell their story. It's like I go so many places now, and I get to speak and talk about what I went through in my story. And you wouldn't believe how many people, because of hearing that, they feel like they can relate. They feel like they're not alone. They're not isolated by themselves, and then they become vulnerable and they want to share their story. So it's for me, that's what sets me apart, is that I finally found something that people relate to.
Yes.
And it's not just the music, it's not just my story. They go hand in hand. And I feel like it's just those little things about people that make them personally unique. You know what I'm saying? People go through all sorts of different things. But I feel like, it's an outlet for me to be able to connect. Yeah.
And those personal stories, that vulnerability really breaks down this veneer of like the artists that you see on Instagram, the artists that you see up on a stage, right? Like it makes you, in their eyes, a real person, right? And I think nail on the head, right? Like it's so important to like find what makes you, and use that as a way to connect with your audience, to connect with people in general, you know, people that you're doing business with, people you're collaborating with. Like, they want to know that they're working with a real person whose values are in alignment with their own.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something, you know, we teach all the time here is like, identify what those values are and use that as your North Star. And, you know, that comes from your experiences, that comes from the things that you've been through. And you've been through, you know, quite a few challenges, of course, diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And also you survived a near fatal car wreck, right? So like you've had quite a few things happen in your life to give you this perspective that maybe you didn't have before that you can now translate into your music. So what did all of that teach you, and how does that start to show up here in your creative process?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, one of the biggest things for me when I first moved here, I had a industry guy that was high up agent, you know, some big artists that was underneath his wing. And he, you know, he told me he listened to some songs that I'd done before I moved here, you know, and he told me, he said, you know, I think these songs are great. You know, he listened to them. I think these songs are great. But he said, I think you're going to write some songs that are going to be your best songs ever that you've not done yet, but they're going to come. And, you know, at that moment I was like, no, these are the best ones. These are the songs. These are the best ones right here. But, you know, I was very young and naive. You know, you're 18 years old. And I mean, you turn the page now, you know, I'm 28, and it's just so crazy for me on how surreal that is. Like, I could have never dreamed all the things that would happen that would bring me to this point, and then to the music that I have now and the different perspective. And yeah, what you mentioned about, so when I was 21, you know, I'd been in Nashville 3, going on 4 years, and I started having a lot of pain in my back and neck. I didn't know what it was. I was really confused, didn't understand. Never had dealt with really pain. You know, I'd broken some bones, but nothing that was chronic and continuing day to day for a long period of time. It never got better. So I started going to doctors, and it was 1 month turned into 2, 3, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And as I started going down this path, you know, I was trying to go to every doctor I could, every specialist I could find, someone who could help tell me what was wrong. And at the same time, you know, the pain was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point to where I actually, after about 2 years of it, I could not take the pain anymore. I was in severe chronic pain 24/7 all the time. And I had to start canceling my shows, canceling my writing sessions, canceling song sessions, you know, meetings, events. I just had to start clearing my calendar because I couldn't do anything but be in like crazy pain. And so it really just started to take pieces of my life out one by one, you know, and not only the pieces of my career, but, you know, your personal life and your friend groups and the people that you maybe think care about you. Things really start to flip on the perspective, you know, when those things start to happen. And especially when you can't get answers and you're going through traumatic pain. So for over, you know, about 2-3 year span, I went to about roughly 80 to 90 doctors, specialists. I mean, it was unreal, and nobody could give us an answer. Nobody gave us an answer to anything. And so that was very discouraging, you know, not only for me, but for my family too. You know, like, you know, I can't imagine how my parents felt, but for me, it was just like, you know, you go to the doctor, you're used to getting medicine or something, get fixed, get better. This wasn't the case. And so I did everything in the world to try to get better. You know, I went to Mexico, got stem cells. I went to, I got epidural injections. I'd had some surgery, some procedures done on my spine, just different things that could help, and nothing would help. And so that's when I really had been led into my, more the avenue that will lead me into addiction. And, you know, cause I was on constant pain medication from doctors. And then, you know, it comes to a place to where some doctors don't believe you. Some doctors don't see what's going on, you know? And so this was just a very tough time for me. And so that led up for about 3 years and got to where, you know, I was just, I kind of felt like I was at the end of my rails. You know, I was laying in bed every day, couldn't do anything, couldn't work, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. It was just really, there's no normalcy of life, no quality of life. And so, you know, it was crazy that I went to Mexico to get some stem cells. I heard a lot about stem cell therapy and how those can help rejuvenate stuff. And so I went to Mexico and got stem cell therapy by a good doctor friend of mine. And the day after I came back, I was in a head-on collision at 85 miles an hour. And the car wreck was almost, it seemed like the icing on the cake. You know, it was just, I was going through so much at that time that it just felt like it was impossible to go any further. And then that happens. And then when that happened, I was hit at 80 some mile an hour, and I somehow was able to stay awake. And the first person that showed up was an off-duty paramedic. I was able to get out of the car. I used my left leg and fell out of the car, and an off-duty paramedic was the first person to run up and grab me and drag me out. And from my knee down on my right leg, I had just completely just crushed everything all the way down. And so they had to replace it all with titanium. So I still have skin and stuff in my leg, but everything internal is titanium now. And so I went through, 7 or 8 surgeries. My head split open all the way back. My leg was just completely dismembered. I spent several months in the hospital, over a half year in a wheelchair and about 2 years of rehabilitation to learn to walk again and to get things somewhat back to normal. But as crazy as that is and as wild as that is, and it felt like just my world was crashing down and things were just crumbling, and there was nothing that I could do, nothing in my will. I just did everything in my power I thought I could do to try to find some kind of resolution, and there wasn't. But through that car accident, there was a random blood test that was done on me, and it had to be tested specifically, and I don't know how or what or why it happened. It's nothing short of a blessing, I believe. And they tested it and found that I was positive for an autoimmune disorder called AS. It's ankylosing spondylitis. It's a spinal disease. And it's practically invisible. So it's kind of tough because as you're getting scans and things, doctors can't even see it. Yet it's literally killing someone at the same time. Yeah. And so they found this, and so through that I was able to get on the actual biological medicine that I was needed to be on, and that changed my life, changed my whole life. I mean, it took away 95% of my pain, and it totally, and when I say changed my life, I don't mean physically. I mean, I went through gruesome, traumatic, mentally and physical pain and suffering for 3 to 4 years straight. That just I mean, I was down to 150 pounds, 150 pounds. I'm 6'3" guy. I'm a pretty tall dude. I shouldn't weigh 150 pounds. Right. And so I was nothing but skin and bones. And I just felt like my life was almost over, and I'd lost my career. Through that, I lost everybody who worked with me, managers, people who helped book shows, distributions. I just had lost pretty much everything. And then, so, I've been here 4 or 5 years. I spent 3 years plus in dramatic pain, trying to juggle the pieces, taking medication, trying to still live my life and do shows until it just came to a place where I couldn't. And so through all that, I finally found my healing, but it's just like what it took to go through that and find that was just excrucial to, what most people may face in life. And I just never saw it coming. But through that, it gave me the healing I needed. It got me back on my feet. It was the perseverance in me and the resilience of having to just fight and overcome and battle and tough it out and just push and push and push to get my life back on track. Because I just had to get my life back on track, Right. And then luckily I was able to stay in Nashville. I had, people that really helped me out to turn the page. And really, really get my life back and start putting the pieces of the puzzle back together, and to get a second wind, at my career of doing music. And so when you ask me about perspective, I know I ramble on a little bit, but the perspective of an 18-year-old person moving from a small town where I've made some success and moving to a big city, I thought I knew it all. I thought I had everything how it should be. I thought I knew what I was doing. I didn't know anything. And like, I always was so upset sometimes back then, like, why didn't it work out then? Why didn't it work out then? Like, and you realize the older you get that you were, if it would have worked out then, I would have never been ready. I'd have fell flat on my face. I didn't have the qualities of the character, I feel like, who I am now, to be able to deal with those things. The pressure of things, the just the busyness of running a music business, and my artist career, and writing and touring and playing shows and producing. It can be a lot, but there's so many things that I had to go through that built me and calloused me and toughened me up, and made me just more prepared. It made me more nourished, and felt like I was just well more in my place now, in what I'm doing in my career. And like, as far as the songwriting, and as far as the way I'm able to present myself at shows and talk and connect with people, it's just not even it's not even like the same person, there was no hard connection, but like, you hear people say, as you go through things, it makes you who you are. It builds you, who you are, your character, your self person. And for me, it gave me that. As much as I had to go through, now I'm able to, on the flip side, share that story and tell people about that, and help people that are in those situations, and, let them know that they're not alone. They're not on their own. They're not isolated. Other people are going through those things. Other people are facing those challenges, and they're going through those battles. But, if I just sit and be quiet and I don't help what I went through, and, a small amount of people make it to the other side, and I need to show you a picture of the car, because it was just like crushed like a pop can. And sometimes I don't understand how I even made it through. But I know that my career is not over. From that moment on, it wasn't a thought of it's done. This was a thought of, I get a second chance. Wow. Like, this is my second win. This is my second chance. I'm going to burn the bridges down, and like light a fire under myself, because I was so eager to conquer it, because I was doing so well before it took me out. But with all that being said, it's like, I had to learn a perspective, because if I didn't get there, I wouldn't have songs that people can relate to.
Right.
I wouldn't have music people can hear and jam and feel like, man, they connect with it, or man, what they're going through is exactly what they needed to hear in that song. That's exactly what they needed to relate to get them through that day or that week, or that moment or that tough time. I put a song out called Water It Down. That's pretty much about my whole story of the car accident and everything. It's talking about not watering things down, not hiding the things, not putting them away, but it's being vulnerable, truthful, honest, telling people that what's going on, asking for help, seeking people that can help make a difference in your life. And, it's all about having the fire, courage, strength to push through and get to that other side, and not water down all the things in life that don't let you get there,
Yeah. And I wanted to let you keep going there.
No,
because,
I'm sorry.
No, because like you can really, and I'm sure they felt it out there too. Like you can really feel the gratitude just kind of jumping off of you, as you're telling like the story, and really like tapping into the resilience that it gave you, the sense of purpose, this, ability to connect with people. And I think it's so weird as you're going through things in life, whatever we're going through, to think of like, I'm going to be grateful for this, because like some pretty bad things happen to us as people from time to time. Right. And it's hard, I think, in those moments to really think about coming to it from a place of gratitude. Like, I'm glad this is happening. Like, obviously the stuff you went through, like, you described it, as being awful, for years. And
I think, so many times, I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just saying, I think so many times also, like, people get so much of the wrong perspective on social media. It's like, it's very easy to see the glamour, and I know people have been told this and read this, but it's like, you see all the mock-up and the perfect this and the perfect that and everything is perfect, but like in the reality is like, so many people face challenges. So many people face hurdles. Like, life is great. Like, my dad used to always tell me, like, life is mountaintops and valleys. But it's like, how do you get through those valleys to get back on the mountaintop? You know, how do you find that medium where, you know, you can take the things that come in a better way. You know, it's like, used to, when I was younger, it's like, you know, things would happen, or I would get so discouraged because, you know, the Nashville world can be very, or the music entertainment, the business, it can be very discouraging. You know, it's a lot of no's and a lot of not good enough, a lot of you're not ready, a lot of you need to do a little bit more of this and to get better at this. And you're going to have, you know, some people are going to love your stuff. Some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to, you know, be amazed, but you're never going to win everybody.
Right. And
you've always got to, you know, stay true to who you are, be yourself, and, you know, get the vision and the creativeness in you out, you know, get your vision told, get your vision out there. Honestly, if I sat and wrote songs and never been through anything, I could write songs all day and put music out. But if people can't relate to something internally, like serious or something that they feel connected to, it's like, I'm not doing my job right.
Right.
You know, like I'm not connecting right as an artist or as a songwriter if people don't feel like they can attach themselves.
Right. And I think the real you is going to connect to who it's meant to connect to.
Yeah.
You're not for everybody. And if it's for everybody, it's for nobody. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's always important, again, coming back to those values, to really have that understanding of who you are, where you've been, because that's where the truth is going to come from in your songwriting and any content that you're putting out, in any experience that you're creating, whether it's live experiences, whether you go out and speak, whether you go, however you're connecting with people. It's important to just come back to center and come back to the value that you have, the unique perspective that you have to provide to them, and meet them where they are with it.
Yeah. Cause I mean, everybody's different. And, you know, I try to be really a very positive person, you know, and because it's easy to get dragged down. It's easy to get, felt like you're just getting beat down and beat up. And, you know, a lot of people see life in the negative, but it doesn't, you know, or the glass half empty rather than half full. But, you know, it can be half full. You know, you gotta have to keep that perspective of, you know, of being positive and carrying that with you, you know, because like I said, it can be very, it can be a town that's very discouraging, you know, or it can be an industry that's very discouraging. But yeah, with all that, you know, whether it's shows or making music or touring, you know, it all comes, you know, in one big circle. You know, it's like, if I could have seen myself back then, you know, now it would have blown my mind, you know, just dreams and things you have as a kid, or, you know, things that you hope will happen and dream will happen. It's like, feels like the last couple of years, my life has started to turn the corner as an artist, and I've started to get, you know, I feel like the music that I've wanted to get out for a long time out, and like people are enjoying it. And like we've had great outlets like People Magazine and CMT and American Songwriter, all these, I mean, even yourself, like people really helping to come to the table and like want to help and want to be a part and want to have a hand in the deck, saying like, we got you. Like, we want to help you. We want to help your vision be told, your story to be told. And like you said, everybody's different, but it's so, you know, music is one thing. You know, I love writing songs, love singing songs, and I love singing, and people can feel that and relate to it. But when I can put the guitar down, take a microphone, and sit there and talk to you straight and, you know, and deep, and have those conversations that are really, really powerful and meaningful. And, you know, those are what I feel like changes some people's lives. And you never know what someone's going through. I've met so many people at shows. You don't know what they went through that day, what their life is going through, or what it looks like, you know. But some people are carrying so much. They're carrying such a heavy load, and they're carrying so much weight that they just don't feel like they can make it through. And so being able to put the music down and even talk to people about that, I feel like they even see a glimpse of just the true, authentic perspective of saying, hey, like it's more than music. You know, there's more to it than just music. It's about really, truly being able to connect with those people and make an impact and a difference.
And so let's bring it full circle to the music, and in particular, the self-titled EP, out now on all of your streaming platforms.
There we go. David Tucker.
What are you hoping that the audience, your listeners, get from the experience of listening to this EP, coming to the shows?
Yeah. I would just say this EP, it's to me, it's more than just sharing music. This EP is more like a chapter that I've kind of like taken out of my life. Mm-hmm. You know, like the last 4 to 5 years of what I've gone through is just like a glimpse of what I wanted to write and talk about in this EP that came out. And that's why, you know, being my debut EP, I felt it was right to self-title it, because it's me. It's a chapter I pulled out of my life and put into these songs. And so that I hope, you know, when people hear it, it's not just, you know, your average breakup story or love story, but people can see the deeper meaning. You know, it's just kind of like more than a surface level meaning. And so I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is just, you know, I'm glad people like it. I'm glad people are connecting to it and jamming it and sharing it. You know, I feel like we've gotten a lot of response to people with different songs just saying, hey, I needed this, or I needed to hear that, or, you know, this helped me through today. You know, I've heard a lot of people talk about Water It Down as they face things, and they say, man, I keep Water It Down on my playlist all the time, and I play it on repeat, because sometimes there are days where it's just, you know, it's not a good day, and I just need some help to fight through, and some power and fire underneath me to just get going. And so sometimes people need that extra push. Sometimes all it takes is a simple kind word or gesture, or a simple conversation, or just someone being there for someone. You know, people don't realize what a small thing you can do, how much of a big impact it can be on someone. You know, it's the little things in life. And I feel like sometimes we all just need that little push, or that little shove, or that little help, or a whisper to know that, hey, it's going to be all right. You're going to get through this. You're going to make it out. It's going to be okay. Because somehow, one way or the other, it always works out. Something always comes together. Something always works out. And so, you know, as hard as life is, and as hard as the traumatic stuff and, you know, may get, you got to keep your eyes focused on the light, you know. It's like, I tell you, it's like that light at the end of the tunnel, you know. It's like maybe far away at times, but it's still shining, you know. You're going to get there, and pretty soon, you know, you'll be on the other side.
Who's giving you that push right now?
Man, I would say, man, honestly, the people who listen to my music, the listeners, I mean, it may sound cliche, but I'm being honest. Like, you know, I'm between my family, my friends, you know, my inner circle of people. I've always had a lot of great support from them, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. You know, their help and support and everything they've done. But I will truly say, since I've gone all through this, I can just see the transition of my career. Not so much as just doing music, but that's the difference, is that before I just did music and I just played songs, and now like people come up to me after shows or speaking events, and I have some of the most deep conversations with people that I would never in a million years imagine I would have. And some of the stories I hear are just crucial, like, you know, whether it's high or low. But the fact that they bring that to me, and the fact that they're vulnerable enough of what they're going through to open up to me about it, someone they don't know, someone they don't know from Adam, someone that they don't have any contact with, but they can hear me talk, or hear me sing, or they listen to my songs and they say, he knows what I'm going through, or he's faced it in this way. Your situation may be a little bit different. You know, everybody's situations are different. But I think that's the takeaway, is that, you know, we all have to find our own relatable selves in those songs. That's why I always try to write my stuff that's like not super specific, because I want people to be able to draw from it at so many different angles, you know?
Right.
Because everybody's, you know, facing a different battle.
And there's even more to come. You know,
absolutely.
EP's out now, but this is just the beginning of the journey with the David Tucker.
It is, and it's funny because, you know, I've been here for a while, but, you know, for the first 6 years, I didn't put music out. So I was just really game planning what we talked about earlier, who I was. What was I going to do to set myself different? What was my sound going to be? Who was David Tucker going to sound like? Who was David Tucker going to be? You know, what was I going to bring to the concert? What was I going to be as an entertainer? How was I going to be able to relate? And so, yeah, so getting the CP out, like I said, it was a long time coming, but I'm super stoked that it's out. And I know it's been a long wait for a lot of people, and I'm sorry, but thank you for the patience, because your patience was really, it was something else, because I'm so happy to have this out. And like I said, this is like a chapter out of my life that I wanted to get out to people so that you all could hear and that you all could see what you think, and that I hope that in some way, somehow, that it relates, or, you know, someone going through a tough time, they can relate, or a happy time, you can jam some songs that pump you up, you know, and you want to stay in that spot. But yeah, you know, through the years, there's just so many things I've been working on in music. And so now it's like, I finally get to take all these things and start taking my vision and get them out to the world. So the first EP, it's out, like he said, David Tucker, self-titled. You can go download it, stream it now, available everywhere. But yeah, so, you know, we're coming towards Christmas. And so we're, as the holidays come through, we're game planning some new releases after the new year. So we've got some new music videos that are going to be coming out. So I'm excited about that. Some cool music videos for some of the songs that are on the EP. And then we've also got some potential other releases coming too down the road. So I'm excited.
All right. So just the beginnings. Make sure you're tapping in with David Tucker. I want to thank you for coming on. This has been just a tremendous conversation, and just thank you for being so open and sharing your story with us. It's an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you.
To see everything that you've battled back from, and to have that inform your perspective forward, and, you know, spring into action the way you have is truly something worth acknowledging. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you for showing up.
My, every, you know, from family to my faith in Christ, I mean, everything in my life, you know, has been a true driven piece of, I don't know, it's just like it's really helped to drive me forward, you know, and I couldn't do it without all the support. I always tell people, you can't do it on your own. You can think you can, and you can want to do it, and you can try and try and try and try, but you'll never get too far. You know, you've got to have help, and you've got to seek help. And so the main thing I always tell people is just, you know, don't just cut yourself off from the world. You know, we're meant to be together. We're meant to work with one another. It's like we're designed that way, I feel like. And so, you know, you can't stray away from those things, because without them, you'll either dive down too far to get back up from, you know, or you just find yourself with nobody.
Yeah.
And lost.
That may have answered my next question.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll see. My next question is, if there's one lesson that you've learned along your journey that 18-year-old you just kind of starting out would have benefited from, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, when I was 18, the biggest thing that I would say now, someone, whether you're first moving here or you're young, you know, if you're 17, 18, 19 or younger or older, moving to town, the biggest thing I wish I could have told myself was to just be genuine. To be genuine of who you are. Be genuine in the relationships that I had. Be genuine in the people that I knew, in the events that I was. Just, it's so easy to come here and to want to enhance on people that can help. You know, and to further those friendships or use those people on what they can help for you. And a lot of times that's people's go-to. Like, you know, it's all about what someone can do for them. But in the years I've been here, the one thing that I've learned that helped me the most is when I made the choice to reciprocate the relationships I had, and to be all in and genuine, to where I wanted someone to feel like they could count on me if they needed me. Doesn't matter who it is, who I'm working with, or whoever was in my life. I wanted them to feel like they could call me if they needed me, you know, and I want that to be reciprocated back and forth, because, you know, yourself, you want to feel like you can call a friend if you need them. You know, you want to feel like you can have someone if you can count on them. And it's that kind of, not like the vulnerability of opening up, but it's that kind of genuineness and authenticness of a person, I feel like, that really connects with someone. And, you know, and when I started doing that, I saw more dots connect in my life than ever before, because people see that and they respect it, you know, and not also that, but it's meaningful. You know, it doesn't feel good to use people. Right. It doesn't feel good to just get what you need and buy. So
Right.
it's just the fact of really being truthful, being open and honest and just genuine, because that will take you so much further. Being genuine in your relationships with people, no matter industry, not industry, in your life, musicians, bands, whoever it is, it takes you a lot further in this life, in this business, by just being real and genuine with who you are.
Absolutely. David Tucker joining us on the Quinn Spinn. Where can we learn more about you and follow the journey?
All right, so it's David Tucker Jams. Wherever you follow on social media, you can go on my website, davidtuckerjams.com. Wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple, Google, across the board, Amazon, wherever you listen to music, you can go check it out. David Tucker. Like he said, the new self-titled EP is out, David Tucker. So you can go check that out too. And I hope you all love it. And stay tuned for the next year. We've got some new music videos dropping, some new songs after that are going to be coming out too. So you all stay tuned. And I'm excited to see what you all think on the next chapter that I start to pull out.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it all unfold.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And this has been the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on the socials at Quinn Spinn Official on Instagram and Threads, the Quinn Spinn on Facebook and TikTok. Underground Music Collective is our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. UMCNashville.com is the place to go, as well as UMC Nashville on most of the socials except Facebook. It's UMC Worldwide. UMC Academy, we have brand camp starting January 6th. If you want to define your artist's vision, get some one-on-one mentorship, and be among a community of driven artistpreneurs, this is for you. Go to umcnashville.com/academy to tap in and register. Revel 9's all become. Going to take us out like it brought us in. I'm going to enjoy this tall, frosty can of liquid death while you grab some muffins on the way out. See you next time.